Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Player, CB Dante Kent stock value, purchased reasoning, the Steelers drafted CB Dante Kent in the 7th round, and he also brings special teams value and return experience. Kent is capable of playing both inside and outside at cornerback and wears multiple hats on special teams. While that gives him an advantage for the 53-man roster, he is far from a lock sitting here in May. We finally have the opportunity to conclude our series on the Steelers draft picks with Dante Kent. Some roster moves took priority along the way, but now we are wrapping things up. Kent is an interesting prospect, and not one a lot of people had on their radar in advance. The Central Michigan product went to Harrisburg High School before spending his entire career in the MAC. While there, Dante Kent only recorded 2 interceptions, and none since 2021. That is not exactly a ringing endorsement for a cornerback, admittedly, and he saw plenty of targets in his coverage. But let's establish one thing, in case this isn't already obvious. The Steelers drafted Dante Kent for Danny Smith, not for Gerald Alexander. That is to say, they are primarily interested in him for special teams, not in the secondary. At least not initially, but he will have a chance to earn a wider role. To begin with, he has to make himself useful in the 3rd phase. That will include joining the punt return line, and he also volunteered for kick returns. Kent only dipped his toes into the return role last year, returning 16 punts for 217 yards. That's a healthy 13.6-yard average, and he returned 1 for a touchdown. But he has no prior college experience returning kicks, even if the NFL's kickoff today is more like a punt. The Steelers do have some numbers at cornerback, so Kent isn't guaranteed to make the roster. They have Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay as their top 2, with Brandon Eccles and Beanie Bishop Jr. fighting for the slot job. In addition, they have James Pierre and Corey Trice Jr., plus some safeties who are slot-capable. While he certainly has a chance to make the roster, don't rush out to buy your Dante Kent jersey yet. Unless you're a family member, of course, in which case you probably already have one. First call, former Steelers WR thinks George Pickens is better than DK Metcalf, ex-Steeler DB joins Browns. Tuesday's first call has a less-than-glowing prediction about how things will go at the Steelers' wide receiver position from a player who knows that spot well. A former Steeler has latched on with the Cleveland Browns. We track the movements of a potential free agent target for the Steelers, and we follow Megan McConnell's preseason in Arizona. Plaxica's proclamation. Plaxica Burress doesn't think that the Steelers are going to be better at the wide receiver position with DK Metcalf being their number 1 target instead of George Pickens. The former Steelers receiver made that assessment on the Up On Game podcast while discussing the team's decision to trade Pickens to Dallas last week. They didn't get any better. I don't believe, when it comes down to playing the position and playing the game of football, that DK Metcalf is a better wide receiver than George Pickens. I would not agree with that, Burress said. We know that George Pickens, when he's playing and he's focused, he's one of the top 5 ball players at the position. There's no dispute in that. There's no doubt about it, but we've got to get the young man focused so he can reach his full potential and become one of these elite wide receivers in all of football. Yeah, exactly, Plex. That's the problem. He can't be reached. And good luck making it happen in Dallas. By the way, I think there were times when people may have said similar things about Burress throughout his career, but I digress. One point that Burress did make that holds some water is that Pickens may be easier to manage if he gets more targets with the Cowboys. He should, since they have a better quarterback in Dak Prescott than the Steelers have had in recent years, and an offense that may not be as run-heavy as was the case here. Pickens will certainly be on a big stage to start his Cowboys career. It was revealed on Monday that Dallas will be visiting the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles for the NBC Thursday night regular season NFL opener at 8:20 p.m. on September 4. Watching the wide receivers now that the Steelers have a hole at the number 2 wide receiver position, again, we'll be keeping an eye on where free agents at that position may wind up as they shop for new contracts. One such player is Gabe Davis. He was released by the Jacksonville Jaguars with a failed physical designation. But if he gets healthy, he could be a weapon. The San Francisco 49ers appear to be thinking that way. They brought him in for a visit on Monday, according to Fox Sports' Jordan Schultz. San Francisco could use receiver help, too, seeing as how Deebo Samuel is now in Washington, and Brandon Ayuk is still recovering from a devastating knee injury a year ago. Aaron Rodgers signing announcement predicted as wild NFL schedule rumor. Aaron Rodgers continues to loom over what has been a roller coaster offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The veteran quarterback has yet to make a final decision on his career path for this season, with many believing he is down to retirement or joining the Steelers for 1 year. Since the offseason started and this connection was in its infant stages, the Steelers have traded for DK Metcalf and traded away George Pickens, brought in a new class of rookies and navigated some cryptic social media posts from TJ Watt. Now, the Steelers have organized team activities set to begin on May 27, but no solid answer for their quarterback position. As of now, Mason Rudolph will get the nod as QB1, seeing that he is the best option by default. Rodgers has operated on his own timeline entirely, so it's hard to anticipate when his final decision will come. However, Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk has continued to theorize that the league's schedule release will factor into Rodgers' timing. Florio, wild as ever, has posited that announcing his decision afterward would save the Steelers some unwarranted time in the spotlight. Now, Florio has tossed the idea of Rodgers upstaging the event entirely. There's one other possibility that would be hilarious if it happens. We've caught wind of the chance, and we have no idea how realistic it is, that Rodgers could announce or leak his plans at 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time or so on Wednesday, upstaging the schedule release planned for 15 minutes later. Could Rodgers decide that for himself? With his personality and this saga revolving entirely around him, it is certainly plausible. But there is a little too much focus on the schedule here. It's hard to imagine Rodgers, who has shared his own bold claims through various channels the last few years, would suddenly go camera shy. And frankly, Rodgers' addition should not add much stock to the Steelers as a team deserving a prime-time spot. Just the name alone does the job in a few spots, and the Steelers have players worthy of that standalone attention. Rodgers' decision to join them at any time should have him aware of that. That OTA date seems a bit more realistic, but again, Rodgers is not tossing out any hints, so his return could come at any time or simply not at all. And you, fan? What do you think about Aaron Rodgers' situation? Write in the comments.